Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Dancing with Numbers in Real Life with Trisha Tate. I'm your host, CEO of FinCore. We are a fractional CFO and accounting services company. And I'm also author of Dancing with Numbers, Grow Financially Healthy Business, and Choreograph the Life That You Want. I started this series in alignment with the name of the book because when I was writing the book, I interviewed business owners to share their journey and their relationship to their numbers from the start all the way to multi-million dollars in business. And I thought that that was like one of the most interesting parts of the book. So I wanted to bring it to real life. And so I'm having business owners share their journey with money and their growth story. But today I have a very special guest, Asia Evans, who's a financial therapist. And I want to talk about the world of financial therapy because I talk about that as well in my book. And I think it's a really important subject to talk about. So we're going to get into what is financial therapy, how you can get access to a financial therapist, and many other things. But before we do that, I want to introduce Asia. Actually, let her introduce herself. Go for it, Asia. Thank you for being with us this morning.
Thank you for having me, Trisha, and good morning to everybody. So excited to be here and just kind of talk about how our worlds collide and the importance of not only the numbers, as you know, but also diving into the emotional aspect of the numbers and what can come up for business owners specifically. So I am a financial therapist. For some people, they're like, what does that even mean? For me, because there is a spectrum of what a financial therapist can look like and what they do. I sit on the emotional side, on the behavioral health side of things. So I have a master's in counseling psychology and have really spent majority of my career doing therapy the way that we sometimes think about it automatically. So I sit in a chair, my clients sit on a couch, and we have conversations about their mental health, their mental wellness, just in general. And what brought me specifically to financial therapy was my own journey. I had, was living my best life in New York City as a 20 something and spending all of my money, quite frankly. I was just spending all of it and didn't understand why I didn't have a bigger savings or why my credit cards weren't going down when I was paying them every month. And that really led me to fall in love with personal finance. When I went on my own journey of education, I fell in love with the numbers. Honestly, I fell in love with the whole process. So, what I ended up doing was really bringing that into my sessions when my clients started talking about money. When they would name, hey, I'm stressed about money. I'm like, oh, well, let's talk about it a little bit. What's going on? What's happening with your numbers? What's happening emotionally for you? So, that led me down the path to financial therapy. I took a whole slew of trainings with the Financial Therapy Association, with Trauma of Money, and the Center for Financial Social Work, and really decided that I was going to make this the foundational piece in my work as a therapist, to really focus on money and the emotions and the mental health aspects and impact of money on how you feel about yourself.
Well, thank you for introducing yourself and telling us your story. So, two major things that Asia didn't share because she's so humble. Asia is actually president of the
Yes.
Financial Therapy Association.
Yes.
And
So,
and 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 she's a new author. So tell us a little
yeah.
bit about your book.
So feel good finance, and thank you, Trisha, for bringing that up, because I get so lost in how important this work is that I forget to start talking about myself.
It's
So
okay.
I can be better. We're working through it, right? Accepting
Of
our
course.
identities.
Of
So
course.
yes, I'm a new author. My book, Feel Good Finance, comes out December 3rd, so it's available for pre-order now. And the book really dives into exactly what I'm talking about: the history of our financial system, specifically in America, and its impact on people and the systems that we use, mixed with the psychology of human beings. How do we understand modeling and the messages we got about money, and how do those then integrate into our money beliefs? And then looking at 6 different reasons or ways that money may interrupt how you're feeling about your own wellness and about your mental health, and just understanding how it might be, rearing its head, whether that's good or bad for you, depends individually, of course. and how that might be impacting your life. So feel good finance really is about dissecting who you are and how does that lead you to do the things that you do with your money.
All right, dissecting who you are. A lot of people don't want to be dissected, but financial therapists are here. And I spoke to when I was writing my book, Dancing with Numbers, and I spoke to one of the founders of financial therapy, Rick Kaler. He said there's a psychology aspect to it, which is your approach,
Yep.
and there's also certified financial planners. So, can you talk to us a little bit about like what is the background of financial therapists? The two parts, and then also what is the process that people go through when if they're looking for a financial therapist, where like what is the moment that they should realize, okay, I should look for a financial therapist, and what's the process they can expect to the experience they can expect to have.
Sure. So thinking about financial therapy and going through like what are the foundations, it pretty much started with two groups of people coming from two very different industries, right? So financial professionals, so it could be your CFPs, your certified financial planners, or your accountants, or a financial advisor, and mental health therapists. So that could be somebody who, like me, is a licensed mental health counselor. It could be a social worker. It could be a licensed marriage and family therapist. And these two groups of people got together and said, we are missing something. In financial part, we're not talking about the emotions. And we know those old kind of tropes of, hey, money isn't emotional, and realizing, wait, money is extremely emotional. And even though somebody may have a beautifully laid out plan, it doesn't mean they're always going to stick to it and what happens in that space. So we need to bring a little bit more of the mental health and wellness to it, as well as mental health. I can say that we are not trained in money. Gambling comes up, of course, but the DSM is not recognizing some of the other things that come up for people around their money. So mental health therapists aren't getting those types of training around money. And these two groups of people came together and said, hey, we want to make sure that there's a path for people to feel like we are entering the numbers into their mental health and the mental health into their numbers. And how can we get together and support other providers to have these conversations and make sure that we're treating and working with our clients in a more holistic fashion? So that's where financial therapy kind of was born and bred out of. And it's important because when you're looking at, hey, who do I need to go see? Who's this financial therapist? Like, what does this mean? You need to take inventory of what is the biggest issue for you. Understanding, is it, hey, I really don't even understand what to do with my money. What is a budget? How do I make this happen? I want to get more concrete about the numbers specifically, and understanding like, okay, maybe I need to see somebody who is a planner, who is an accountant, but understands that there are going to be some emotional barriers or challenges that may come up, versus somebody like me. I am here for the emotions. I am here for the behaviors. We will talk about your numbers. We will look at them, but I'm really trying to figure out what behavioral changes need to happen, what mindset shifts need to happen for you to be able to execute some of the plans that you may be making with your advisor or financial professional. So
Love
that
that.
is kind of, in a nutshell, like where it ebbs and flows between the two parts of us. And the process does, of course, vary with who you're going to see. But my process is about, hey, where are you at with money right now? Is there a crisis going on? Is something really pressing? Why now? What's happening? And what have you done throughout your life? And that means let's go right back to the beginning. Started with some of your first money memories, working your way through your money autobiography, if you will, understanding, hey, all these, nonverbal communication, tone, messages that you got from family, friends, media, anyone, all make up your money story. And what are the beliefs that you have that were, formulated when you were younger and throughout your life that you may be holding on to that either work for you or don't?
So let's talk logistics really quickly. So if someone is listening to this conversation and they're like, "Oh my gosh, financial therapy, didn't know it was a thing, but now it's a thing." And so what logistically, where would they go to sign up for a financial therapist? Just give
Yeah.
us that really
So you
quickly.
can come to my website, which is asiaevanscounseling.com. If you are like, hey, Asia feels like a good fit, and fit is very, very important. You want to make sure you're working with somebody that you can connect to, that you feel seen with. So it's important if that I might not be that person for everybody. And of course, I can't be, right? That wouldn't make sense.
That's
So
there. That's the same thing I say for every person on someone's financial team. CPA has to be a fit, bookkeeper has to, CFO has to be a fit. Yes.
exactly. So fit
Yep.
is really important because you want to trust them and you want to feel comfortable working with them and
Mhm.
opening up because some of the things we're talking about are very vulnerable. But other places such as directories that you can go to, the Financial Therapy Association has a directory where people are listed who are doing this work. And it could be, at, like I said, anywhere from mental health professional to a financial professional. So understanding that as well as looking at the trauma money also has a directory, and so does the Center for Financial Social Work.
Thank you. Thank you. So financialtherapyassociation.org, right?
Yep.
.org. Okay, that's where people can search, or they can go to your website and find you. All right, awesome. So I wanted to talk about I realize in working with so our clients are typically in a stage of growth where they're 1 to 20 million in revenue. But I've also realized in working with business owners who are less than a million, even six figures, think a different way about money. And those who are starting on the entrepreneurial journey have even more barriers around money, usually, right? And so I would love for you to share with us what are some of the challenges, or maybe even the number one challenge that comes up for the newbie business owner versus the one who's like been in the trenches a while and is, maybe in that six figures space versus the business owner who is, at that million plus and really growing a team and all of those other things and dealing with bigger numbers.
Yep. So I would definitely say in the beginning, if we're using like kind of more business language, it's proof of concept, right? So in the beginning, people are trying to understand, is this going to work? And that is the bootstrapping. I'm going to make this happen. I'm doing everything. I'm trying to figure out. It's such a heavy growth and learning time for people. And that can feel really uncomfortable because that's when some of the scarcity mindset can come in if that's something that you haven't addressed before you became a business owner. The are we going to have enough? Is there enough time? Is there enough energy? I'm doing so much. I have to have unwavering faith. And I use those two words so strongly because that is the time when you're like, this has to work. I believe that this is going to work. So, understanding that scarcity mindset can also come with the fact that you're like, I have to have unwavering faith in myself and in my business. So, a lot of times people don't they believe it, but they're unsure if they're really going to get to the place of making it. Am I going to make enough money? How am I going to support my family? So there's a lot of doubt that can creep in for people in the beginning of business ownership and just trying to understand it is so difficult. Like what you see on socials and people like, oh, I'm taking this PJ, I'm getting on my private jet, or we rented one. I'm like, whose business is that? Because that's not mine. I am not kicking off at, 3 o'clock every single day to make sure that I am living my best life. That's not what my business looks like. I aspire, but we're not there yet. So, really realizing that there's so much work that goes on behind the scenes. And a lot of that is mindset to be able to level up to kind of like the middle stage of what we're talking about. So, not so much a newbie, but you're a little bit more in the intermediate level. You've got a few years under your belt. You are realizing that it's working. So, a lot of times when people are at that point, they're thinking about scaling. They can see it, they believe it. How am I going to scale up? What does that mean? Does that mean I need new supports? I might be spending more money than I was spending before because I am starting to collaborate with people, potentially hiring some contractors. So that is getting used to investing in yourself, investing back into your business, and what that means to potentially take, you name the number, $1,000, and say, okay, I am going to delegate this and comfortably learn to comfortably delegate this to somebody else? Am I hiring an assistant? Am I hiring a VA? And spending money on your business in a different way than you may have been spending it as a newbie, because it's not as bootstrappy, if you as you will. So really understanding that, oh, I can invest in my business. I do need some of these other aspects to make sure that I'm growing at a higher level, because you've learned so much, right? Those years when you were grinding it out and working all the time and coming up with ideas and pivoting and just really formulating what your business wanted to look like. Now you're like, oh, I do have a few more resources to be able to put behind some of these ideas and grow. And then what I see with business owners who are more of the veteran level, if we will, or are scaling at, 7 figures, $1 million plus, is that, bigger numbers, bigger problems, more money, more problems was not a joke. Like, that's real, because now you potentially have people counting on you. It's not just your salary that you're pulling from the business earnings. Now you have people whose livelihoods are based on how well your business does. And if you see your sale numbers aren't meeting your trajectories, what do you do? Because your ship is a little bit bigger. You can't be as nimble as you potentially were when you were a newbie, to be like, hey, I'm throwing spaghetti at a wall. I'm trying it. This works. This doesn't. I do agree with some of the kind of startup culture that says fail fast. I think innovating is very, very important, especially with how quickly tech moves. However, it's harder to do that when you're like, hey, this is a 6 figure decision I'm making, and that also brings you back to mindset. And while you're going through these stages, you have to continuously innovate your own mindset, because in the beginning, you may never have thought that you would get to a million ever, or as quickly as you did. And you do need to grow into that space to be comfortable of taking on more help, to hire full-time staff, and what that looks like for you, because that can be really, really uncomfortable, knowing that now it's not just you that you're responsible for, and not just a contractor, but you do have full-time staff members. So a lot of this movement through business ownership really is about, how do you level up and feel comfortable holding some of that responsibility, but also delegating, knowing that it is not all yours to hold, that people want to work with you and for your company, so you can share ideas, and that will only make you stronger.
Wow. So thank you for sharing all of that. That is like, I'm feeling everything that you're saying because I'm have moved through some of those stages. And
Mhm.
even though I went to business school, I have a finance degree, I worked on Wall Street, being an entrepreneur and being a business owner, someone said, is the biggest lesson in personal development besides parenting,
Mhm.
because it stretches you in so many different ways, and it forces you to like feel the weight of, the responsibility to customers and to employees and to be a leader,
Yes.
right? No
Yes.
matter what, and to figure ish out, right? I say we have a level of figure outedness. And if you don't take command of your emotion and your mindset in this process, especially around money, which is so personal, but we believe at FinCore that finance is the core and the heart of every business, then it's going to stunt your growth.
Yes.
um, and I love what you said about being in the growth stage when you have a bigger ship and now you're responsible for other people. Like, I feel
Mhm.
that so deep. But you gotta fail fast, and fail forward. And we had another guest on a couple weeks ago, and she talked about this, like, right, she was at this place, almost at a million or a million plus, and lost like 60% of her revenue in 30 days,
Yep.
and started to feel the weight of having being responsible for payroll
Yep.
and having to cover that. And she did what she needed to do, but emotionally,
Yep.
in the background, it was so hard, and she went
Yep.
through a very tough time. And I wish at that time, like, she would have known a financial therapist or where
Yeah.
you could go, right? And so this is why having these conversations is so important for me to bring to my audience, potential clients, or whoever's listening, because I want you to know that no matter where you are in your stage of business, newbie, you're in that six figure space, you're million plus or 20 million plus, whatever, at the higher, more mature stages, if you need support and you need help, there is financial therapy. So I want to now hone in and zone in on women business owners,
Mhm.
because there are some additional challenges
Yeah.
that I hear from women business owners. I have interviewed over 100 women business owners
Mhm.
in the past 8 years of being in business, because I wanted to hear what were some of the financial challenges that they faced. And I started to hear some of the say, I interviewed women and men, but like with the women, I started to hear some recurring themes.
Mhm.
So I'm curious to hear from you. What are some of the financial challenges or issues or things that come up for women business owners in your experience?
I feel like this is hard because some of it has to deal with being a business owner, and some of it is just kind of like the state of being a woman and what comes up for people. So
There you
I
go.
do
Yep.
think there's a level of, and it goes back to growth, right? I'm all about personal development and growth, obviously, right? Like blame it on the day job. But I think that there is a very strong narrative for women that we have received throughout different points in our life, whether we were hearing it from our family members coming to us or coming to a different um, like woman in our life, that we don't know what we're doing with money. And even if your business is scaling and is growing, there's this level of, do I know what I'm doing? Is this okay? Is this safe? Is this gonna work out? And we kind of want to know exactly that, hey, I here's the crystal ball. In 2 years, you're gonna be making this much money. It's gonna work out. Keep going. And when we don't have that, we feel a little uncomfortable. And systematically, those are because of messages that we've received. So I think people can 100% grow out of that way of thought, but it is something to navigate and that you have to actively work on when you are growing yourself, but also when your business is growing. So I don't like to call it imposter syndrome because I have a love-hate like relationship with that, but I do think that understanding, hey, where am I coming from? What are these old money beliefs? Do they still apply to me? And how can I work through them if I need to and heal if I need to? So that is part of it. We know systematically that female founders, especially Black female founders, are not getting the capital behind their businesses the way that other
Right.
people are at all, which makes it very difficult to reach out and ask for help. So, when you need the support, if it is a financial therapist, if it is, hey, you don't need to do your books, right? Like, you don't need to do the bookkeeping. Somebody else can do that. That can be their whole job. But asking
Yes.
for help and getting those resources can be complicated when you either feel like, oh, do I have the resources for this? Do I have enough money? Or I can just do it myself. It is not about like, can you, but it's like, do you
Should
have
you?
to? Right. Like, do you have
Yeah, should you? Is it your expertise? Are you the best person for the job? You should always be looking for the best person for the job. And sometimes it is not you.
right. And that's okay. You know your business in and out. You bringing somebody in doesn't mean that you know your business any less. It just means that you don't need to be the person doing this. You don't.
That is so true. And so when I was interviewing people for my book, I would ask them, what is your earliest memory of money? Actually, I'm going to ask you this question. What is your earliest memory of money?
Yep.
What was the lesson and who taught it to you?
So I at this point I don't even know if it's my memory or my friend's memory. It's like kind of one of those things, but at this point it is my first memory that I think of. So I think I was probably under 10, over like somewhere probably between like 7 and 10 if you will. And me and my friend were at the store. I think we're at the grocery store, and I bought like a bag of chips or something, some candy. I bought something, but I had money. I think it was like a sleepover or hangout, but we were at the grocery store, probably getting some kind of snack, I hope. But I was like, oh, I'm going to buy this. And I went up to the teller by myself, purchased it, like did the exchange of money. And my friend, either afterwards or when we were older, again, I can't tell, I don't even remember, but my friend told me, she's like, "I can't believe you went up and did that by yourself. Like, you talked to the adult, you exchanged your money, you just did it." And after that, I didn't even think about it, but thinking back, I'm like, "Wow, I felt, like, really good about that." I felt proud. I'm like, "Yes, I'm big, I'm older, I can handle money, I'm doing things." So, um, I think it was being seen in the confidence with money. It was about
Mm.
me being able to navigate it, even though I didn't understand at all what I was doing, you know what I mean? Like, it was probably like 2 bucks, maybe 5, that having that exchange, but I think that led me to believe that I could be confident with money, that I could do this kind of exchange even at my age. So, yeah, small little lesson
And
that
who
really.
gave you that confidence to even ask and negotiate and
I
buy
mean,
the thing?
I'm gonna say my parents,
Mhm.
but I think it wasn't because they're like, "Oh, we definitely want you to be 100% confident," that can come with its own parenting struggles too.
Yep.
But I think it was about independence. Like, my parents really
Mm.
wanted to make sure that me and my brother knew how to navigate the world just in case something happened, just in case they weren't there. They wanted to make sure that we could either get to safety, get help. Like, they wanted to make sure that we could just navigate what was
Yeah.
going on around us, and I think that gave me confidence. So, there were times when we were encouraged to do things or
Mhm.
encouraged to go, like, speak to an adult and felt like we could. It
Yeah.
wasn't children should be seen, not heard. It was like, "No, you can be heard here." We knew what the parameters were, right? I still
Yeah.
grew up in a Black house, so there were parameters and boundaries, but, I felt like I could have a conversation or ask an adult for help.
So what I recognize in those interviews with a lot of women business owners, um, one of the themes that was recurring is this issue around debt and
Mhm.
taking on debt and not wanting to owe anybody. And I also found that from business owners that came from an immigrant household. So I'm first generation American, and my parents, particularly the women in my family, wonderfully taught me about being financially independent and owning your own house and having a 401k and savings and the like. But not everybody was fortunate enough to get that positive messaging, and so I met a lot of women business owners and those who come from immigrant families who have an issue taking on debt. And I know that sometimes you need debt
Mhm.
to grow and scale. It's just a matter of how you manage it and how you work with it. So do you see, that as a big issue that people have to deal with? And if not that concept, are there other concepts that you see come up for women business owners, or even business owners that are from an immigrant background?
Yeah, so the 2 things that I hear when you say that is risk and, trust. Those are the
Mm,
2 things that come to mind when you say that, and it makes sense. There is a reason for it, right? So, statistically, women, are better at calculating risk. Like, we will go into something weighing a lot more of the risk before we actually take the step forward. So
yep.
for debt, that looks like, hey, I want to make sure that I can pay this off. I don't want to owe anyone. I don't want anybody coming after me just in case I'm unable to pay. So that's risk that we're talking about. And how do you manage that risk? So, culturally as well, that comes up too. Like, I don't want to owe anyone. What will that look like? What has happened in the past for people who did owe people? Like, that's a very important nuance that can come together for anybody, no matter what your racial or cultural background is. So it's important to understand where you're coming from. And the second part is trust. So if you were thinking about the financial system was not built for somebody who looked like me. Like, quite literally, it was not built for me.
Hmm.
Being a Black woman, what that looks like. And We know this when we just look at the data. Like, it's not even
Talk about it.
right. Like, can we let's bring it back. 1974 is when women could get access to credit, and not
That's right.
just women in general. That is only 50 years ago. That's my mom, right? Like, that is one
Right.
generation for me. And
Right.
that means a credit card, that means a mortgage, if you wanted a loan, anything that would require
A
you to get
business loan.
anything. Right, exactly.
Mhm.
Anything that would require you needed a man to co-sign and say, "Oh, it's okay that she does this." That's wild when you think about that. And before that, in the 1960s, women couldn't have a bank account until then. So my mom literally, I'm like, my mom was born in 1958. So in the
Wow.
60s, when
Yeah.
she was one of the first Black women going in, and women in general being like, oh, I got a bank account. And I talk about it in my book, that story. I'm like, Mom, did you know what was going on? She was like, no, we were pretty young. Grandma, her mom waltzed them both in and her family and got bank accounts. And I'm like, my mom? It is not that far away, and I think
Yeah.
we forget that. It's not grandma, it's not great grandmother or anything like that, like, that's just my mom, and I'm in my late 30s. So I think it's really important for us to realize that there has been a lot of time that's passed. Yes, there has been trust built. Yes, but there have been a lot of harsh realities that said it's not safe for us to keep our money in a bank. It's not safe for us to trust other people with our money. I'd rather have it close to me. I'd rather know where it is. But we know financially that is not the best move, right? Keeping
Right.
your money in your, mattress or in your closet or on a wall
Right.
somewhere is not the best. Keeping your money in a checking account is not the best. Like, we need to be putting that money in a high yield savings account, as well as investing it if that's, where you're at in your life. Not all of it, make sure you have
Yeah.
some liquid,
Yeah.
but that's why there's some mistrust, and that takes time, and it takes understanding where you're coming from to make sure it doesn't hinder you or your business.
That is so true. It I think it was Rick Taylor or somewhere I read that uh people form their money beliefs from the age of like 7 or 7 to 10.
Yeah, there's
And
research came out of the UK.
that so could you imagine you form your money belief between 7 to 10 and you take that same money belief with you into adulthood and into starting a
Yep,
business,
yep,
and then you got to unlearn and unpack the stuff that doesn't serve you,
right.
right? That's a huge challenge, and that's why I say like entrepreneurship is not for the faint of heart. It
No.
is literally a personal development exercise. And I also learned from Rick Taylor about the term money scripts, which I've heard many times before, but I didn't know it was created by folks, by men. But can you explain to us what are money scripts,
Yep.
and do you work with money scripts? Can we how do we shift bad money scripts? Can you describe what money scripts are?
Yeah, so money scripts are more about, there are four of them, and the money scripts really center around, has like kind of like a script of the way you think about money, right? A script of the way that you believe money is. So money status would be one of them, which is to say like, hey, if I have money, I'll have status. The more money, the better kind of thing. Like, it's going to solve all of my problems. Money vigilance is about, hey, if I keep all this money and if I'm on top of my money and just know what's going on with my money, then I'll be safe. I'll feel comfortable. Money avoidance, right? So you're avoiding your money. Like, quite literally, you are either repelling it, you're avoiding it, you're not looking at it. Um, and I should know the third one, but I'm like, what is it off the top of my head? This is
It
gonna kill
was There was vigilance, there's
me.
avoidance. Um, isn't there one around like being too strict with your money?
Oh my goodness.
That's okay. I'll pull it up too.
Yeah, I'm like terrible financial
Okay,
therapist.
money avoider, money worshiper, money status, money
That's it,
vigilance,
worshiper.
worship. Okay, there you go.
So
See?
thank you.
That's okay.
So this
It's
so
it's in here and I know
It's
it's in your book
it's
too.
definitely in there too. So I touch upon it, but I don't use money scripts as much.
Mm,
because I find that people really struggle when they are labeled. Like if somebody asks me, like, "Hey, what's my money script?" I'm
mm,
like, I'll tell you." But and this is true for who I am when I'm dealing with like kind of mental health specifically too. I think when we start labeling somebody these things, and this is also because I'm tending to work with high achieving women who want to get an
mhm.
A in therapy, right? Like, and
Want to
my
get an A in life.
in life, do it all right. Is this perfect? Is this correct? And the
Mm,
second I slap a label on somebody, they're like, okay, this is what it is. How do I do my homework? Check, 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 check,
yeah,
check.
yeah.
And I'm trying to really pull my clients out of that thinking to remember that the way they go through life is the right way. That there is no right way, there's no wrong way. You don't need to do it. Your way is the right way, whatever that is. And I don't want any kind of label or script or diagnosis to impact how they feel about themselves, because I do think that we all have diagnosable things if you want to, right? If you want to go down that road, we could, but it's more important for me to be like, okay, yes, you may be struggling with this. Yes, you have symptomology that mirrors that. Okay, fine. How do you make sure that you are not feeling bad or guilty about it? And how do you kind of push forward and get comfortable with that? And some of that is unlearning behaviors, it is unlearning some of the money beliefs that you've had in the past. And that is the hardest part. It's not the labeling that
Mm.
people have the hardest trouble with. It's the, oh, I have to do something different now because now I understand why I do this and I don't want to do that anymore. So that is the hardest part for people. It's the behavior change, but they're there. They can be very, very helpful for people. Scripts, diagnoses, of course. It's not to say to rail against them, but it is to say sometimes people take it and run with it too much.
So I want to bring something full circle. I know we were talking about women business owners um and some of the challenges, but some of the wonderful things about us, of course, are also that we are notoriously great with money, and every sort of investor venture capital, um private equity article speaks to the fact that when you give us that whatever percentage of money, we're gonna make it work. We're gonna
Mhm.
make it we're gonna make it stretch. And I believe that it is important for women business owners in general, to have financial education,
Mhm.
no matter whether you have a business background or something I hear all the time. Oh, I'm good at math. I'm good at numbers. Good at math and good at numbers doesn't necessarily mean good at finances and
Yep.
managing the finances of your business, right? But financial education is so important. And I wanted to bring to the audience also financial therapy,
Yep.
right? As an avenue or something to support you in your journey and your relationship to money. Because at the end of the day, I believe that finances can be fun and people
Mhm.
can have a positive, engaging relationship with it.
Yep.
But it requires unpacking any destructive beliefs, habits, thoughts that are not supportive of you. And in order to do that, you got to trust the people that you bring into your universe, right?
Mhm.
Whether it's a financial therapist, it's your financial advisor, it's your CPA, it's your fractional CFO. That's why I tell people, I don't sell, I can increase your profits.
Mhm.
I don't sell, I can expand your cash flow. I don't even sell that I help you exit successfully, which are
Mhm.
all the things that we do at FinCore. But I say that I sell trust,
Yep.
because if I can't engender trust in the first couple of minutes of work talking to a potential client, I have lost them. Forget
Yeah.
closing a deal or a sale. So I want to just share the message of the importance of financial education, financial therapy as an avenue, but also hiring people and investing in people that you trust to take you through
Yep.
this journey and your relationship to money to a happy place. um and I want to give an actionable idea for everyone out there to just start, right? Because I think awareness is the first place, and
100%.
then the process of healing. The way to become aware of sort of like what may be hindering you, holding you back, one of the ways, right? And I'm speaking to a therapist, so you could share another way. But one of the ways is to ask yourself the question, what is your earliest memory of money? who taught it to you, and what was the lesson? And sometimes, and I've done this when I'm doing speaking engagements and I've asked people in the audience, and they never really had an awareness around it or connected the dots between what they do today and what experience they had in the past.
Mhm.
Um, is that one of the ways that you would recommend someone, start by becoming aware of what their money patterns are, or do you have other suggestions?
Yeah, I mean, that definitely is 100% helpful for people, so please do go do that. But in addition, I would say to list all your money beliefs. And when you're like, "What are my beliefs?" Think about what you believe to be true about money. So for some people, it could be, "Oh, you have to work hard. Money doesn't grow on trees." These are, like, very common ones, right? Um I'll never have enough money. Like, think, soul search a little bit and go to those harder places that say, "Oh, this is what I believe about money." And then list them down and take a hard look at them. Does that hinder how you operate in your business? Does that still work for you? Where did that come from? And that's when you tie in your first money beliefs or how you went through your life and understand, is this a pattern that I'm going to continue to perpetuate, or is this something that I want to change? And then start looking at, okay, do I need to heal? Do I need support in this journey? What do I need to do? So
Yeah,
it's very deep work because, to your
yeah,
point, a lot of us don't think about how our earliest money memories are now impacting us today, but you have to do it, especially as a business owner, because it will hinder not only how you're able to scale your business, how you make money, and then what you do with your money once you've made it. And I don't want anybody making tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, or millions of dollars and feeling like, "Oh, I'll never get there. This will never be enough. Like, this is never going to work out for me," because that will hinder your business.
yeah. So as you're speaking, I'm thinking of the spots or the issues that come up for people where I feel resistance, right?
Mhm.
A block. One of them is pricing your worth, pricing, asking
Yep,
for the
saying it out loud.
sale,
Mhm.
asking for the price, paying yourself, right? How much do you pay yourself? You feel this obligation to like reduce the price for the customer. Oh, what if they don't come? I have to pay employees, like prioritizing everyone else
Yep,
beyond yourself. We already talked about debt, taking on debt. When you have to hire someone and
yep,
investing in support, investing in someone, and not trying to just penny pinch and go to the lowest bidder, because you don't want anyone come to you and ask for the lowest price or ask for free.com,
you
right?
get what you pay for,
So
truly.
right. You get, and you also get what you pay for. You get what you don't pay for, right?
Mhm.
Um, Another one that I see is when we have to go to a banker, like some people don't always trust the financial professionals that they're talking to. And not everybody on Instagram or TikTok is a financial professional because they profess to be. All right. So make sure when you're looking for professionals, including therapists, that they have a background, they have experience, they have the schooling and all of those things. But I see these are like triggers,
Mm,
right? When you have to when you have to hire, and also when you have to lay off
yep. Oh,
people,
because it's so
right?
emotional. It's so uncomfortable. It's emotional.
Yes, it is.
All of the things are emotional you're talking
And
about.
when people look at their bank account, I remember speaking to someone in a group of women, and she was like, "I don't like to look at the numbers because of the ebb and flow." And I'm like, "That's what happens in business." But that was tied to something in her past
Yep,
where like, dad or mom's money wasn't good all the time and there was ebb and flow, right? And so she's
yep,
reliving that emotion. So I just want to implore everyone who is listening, no matter what stage of business you're in, like I said before, get financial education, go to all the workshops. Not everyone's going to land on you, but something may seep in. But also think about and consider financial therapy, and make sure you vet all of the financial advisors, trusted advisors that you bring into your realm. So, I want to thank Asia for being with us today. Thank you very much. How can they find you? Your website and your
yep.
Instagram?
Yep. So you can find me asiaevanscounseling.com. On Instagram, it's Asia, AJAE therapy. You can get Feel Good Finance wherever you get your books. Try to shop small, support the indie bookstores as well.
All right. Again, everyone, my name is Trisha Tate. I'm CEO of FinCore, a fractional CFO services company. And thank you for listening to Dancing with Numbers in Real Life. We're continuing to do this twice a month. We started in June. Please, if you enjoy this conversation, comment, like, reshare,
Yep.
repost. I think at this point we've done 7 or 8 of these sessions. Let me know how you're feeling about these conversations. I'm really enjoying them, but I also want to hear from you and hear your feedback. Also, let me know what topics you're interested in hearing about, what kind of business owners you want to hear from. This was a special session with financial therapy, but please listen and share your feedback. I look forward to seeing you all next time in a couple of weeks. Again, Asia, thank you very much for being with